Hey guys, and welcome back to another week of Porsche Cup at the Circuit of the Americas in Texas. We're here for week 5 of the season. I'm Matt Emery with Veloce Esports, and you're watching Coach Dave Academy's YouTube channel. And yeah, let's get into the hot lap. So let's jump into the hot lap guide then for the Circuit of the Americas. For a hot lap of this circuit. Quite a tricky track to get the hang of, and you'll notice the track limits are quite harsh around here. So do just keep a lookout, obviously where you're placing your car on your hot laps. So starting your lap then, obviously into the final corner. What you want to make sure you do is you really open up this corner as much as possible. Obviously this is only really in qualifying. So you'll notice on the entry to the lap, I'm taking a nice wide line and then getting a nice straight exit on the power nice and early. And then that sets a lap up. Coming down into turn 1, you'll notice a massive incline. Quite hard to spot your braking zone. So you'll notice, trying to look for references, there's a white line and a cone coming up, and you want to brake about 50 to 100 meters before you get to that white line. Now, unfortunately, there's no braking markers to the side of the track for turn 1. So you're going to have to sort of find some other references you can use. I personally use the white line just when it sort of comes into view. If you go into cockpit cam here as well, where is it? There it is. You'll see you see the cone here coming into distance, and the white line as well. And you're just creeping it towards not fully to the right hand side of the track. You're going slightly towards the middle, veering off the corner. It's a very wide circuit, Cota. So you in this car you don't tend to want to use all of the track. You notice I'm sort of cutting into the apex as we've done in a few different tracks this season. You're veering off the corner. You're just waiting really to get to the apex until you put all the lock on, just to really straight line the exit. So you see I'm still rounding off the corner, taking quite a late apex. As you get in, get all your rotation done on the apex, and then back on the throttle for a nice straight exit. So I'll play that all for you now. So as I say, brake about 50 to 100 meters before the white line. Nice and easy on the brakes. Don't want to lock a brake here because you won't make the corner. Very easy to do as well. And also quite a common theme, it's very easy to lock the rear tyres at this circuit. So if you're struggling with locking your rears in practice, I would suggest changing the brake bias forward. So that's increasing the value, putting more of your brake pressure onto the front tyres, because the rear left in particular is very easy to lock around this circuit. So I suggest increasing that if you are struggling with rear locking. So out of turn 1 then, and you come swooping back down into turn 2. Not quite flat out, and this is one of the corners is a bit more lenient with track limits. So you'll notice I've got all 4 wheels just about off the track, just using as much as you can to scrub off distance you're using. Slight lift there, so you can see I'm not quite fully on the throttle there. And otherwise, what's going to happen? The rear is just going to come around on you, and you're going to spin off or go off the track or get off track. And obviously, it's not good for your tyres, not good for lap time either. So you are going to need a small lift here, as tempting as it is to go flat through here. So yeah, make sure you have a small lift. And then once you go through that corner, you're trying to get it back over to the right as far as you can, really, and then swoop it back in to this first left of the S's. Now, very important that you carry the speed, but also don't go too far offline in these corners, because you go offline in one of them, you're going to pay the price for that all the way through the next S's. And the rest of this sequence, which finishes off sector 1, is really just one continuous corner into another. So for the first S, you're going to start braking just before this bridge. So you see I'm getting on the brakes just at this shadow here. Obviously, it depends on the time of day in your session. But you see, I'm just getting on the brakes now, just about 20 or 30%. Just getting the car into the first S. Also, you don't really want to be touching these yellow sausage curbs. A couple of times I hit them in practice, and my car went absolutely flying and broke the suspension and was in the barrier. So make sure you don't touch them. You can get away with clipping the edge of them slightly. But again, I wouldn't really recommend it as you are playing a bit with fire, and sooner or later it's going to bite. So I would recommend just get as close as you can to them as possible. Same into this one. You can see I'm just clipping the edge of the curb there, the yellow curb. Again, don't go anywhere near them or near the big bit of it, otherwise you will go flying. As I said, you're all carrying the speed from the first S all the way in, so you're getting it as far back over to the left as you can, which leads you into the next right-hander, and then you're carrying the speed through there. You see in my brake lights, a bit of a dab of the brake. I'm trailing all the way through here, about 40-50%, just into the apex. Back on the throttle again. Try and open up this corner as much as you can. And then back over to the left, making sure you clip the apex as well. See just a little bit of braking. So you're looking about 30-40% for most of the S's here on your brake pressure. Open up this next corner, which again it's sort of a double apex right-hander. Get it back open. What I would say, this corner you can't really see it, but it's slightly off camber. So what you find, the car will want to go a bit wider. Try and keep it as far to the right as you can, just as then you can get into the next apex. You can get on the throttle a bit earlier. You'll see I'm not drifting out too far to the left. I'm sort of just so in the middle, but slightly to the right. Holding that brake and getting that, making sure you keep that pressure on the front of the car, and it's dragging you into the corner. And then back on the throttle. You can get a bit more slightly more onto the red here. Don't go all 4 wheels off the track because you will get an off track. But if you want, you can be a bit more greedy with that. Also making sure you're carrying that minimum speed into the next corner. So you see I'm getting back on the throttle. Got quite a lot of lock on here as well. So back in to the right hand side, open up the next corner. Quite a common theme with sector 1. You are just making sure you carry as much speed as you can, but also opening up the next corner. So it's fine to lose a little bit of minimum speed, because you really want to focus on the exits and opening up the next corner. But do make sure you aren't slowing down too much. Then onto this left-hander, which leads us back up the hill. You see, I'm getting it back to the right, not all the way to the curb, just as you scrub. It's hard to get it back over and then into the apex again. Just as the Porsche is quite a heavy car, doesn't like being thrown about too much from corner to corner. So you'll notice I'm not using all of the track there. And then just making sure you get as close to that yellow curb again as you can, and then back on the throttle as early as you can as well. So that's the end of sector 1. Now we go back up the hill for this tricky little chicane, really. Tricky little chicane. Quite tricky again. You see I'm braking quite early for it. There's not too much of a reference to use here other than maybe the edge of this curb here. You want to start braking. And then you're just waiting again patiently on the throttle. And you really want to make sure you're getting on this curb here to open up this next corner and get to the apex. Make sure you get on the throttle a bit earlier. So you'll notice through here, carrying it through, open up that next corner. Just make sure you don't go too far onto this red because you will go off track. So you're just about keeping your left-hand tyres on this line here, and that's just about legal. So I'll play it through for you now. Open up that next corner. Again, get as close as you can to this curb here without touching it too much. You see I'm back full throttle already. The rear gets a little bit light as you go over the crest there. But it shouldn't be too much of an issue once your tyres are warmed up. You see my car gets a bit of a wiggle on there, but it's not too much of an issue. Again, be careful if you run too wide, very harsh on off tracks, so you need to be careful going too wide there, you will go on off track. The AstroTurf in general on this circuit, you don't want to go too far on it, as you will go on off track, it's quite strict. But then plunging back down the hill again, flat out left-hander, slight kink, and then coming into another very tricky braking zone. Now, luckily, we do have some brake markers for this one on the fence. You can't see right now, but there's 100 meters and a 50-meter board. You're braking just after the start of this curb. So just where the AstroTurf starts really as well, just before the 100 meters. Braking into the corner. Again, just being very patient with the turning. And then start to V off the corner. Obviously, really, really important to get a good exit as you've got this massive long straight following the corner. So get it off nice and V'd into the corner. Start turning in, really in line with this white line here. And you'll see I'm just waiting patiently to get the lock on and the rotation. And then clipping the curb and getting back on the throttle as soon as I can. Again, don't use too much of the Astro on the exit as you will get an off track. So I'll play that through for you now. You can see my brake traces up to about 90%, trailing off. But again, holding that brake pressure into the corner, just roughly into the apex, and then getting back on the throttle as soon as you can. And what you can do, you see I've got the throttle at the apex there, and what that does, it will help bring the rear tyres round, and you get that bit more rotation you'll need to obviously get that better exit and straighten up the car onto the rest of the straight. So you see, getting on the throttle early, the rear just there rotates a little bit, and that was a really good exit on that corner. And if you notice in the whole lap I just did, that was probably the best lap I've done in the whole of the session. So yeah, really important to focus on that exit as it leads down to this long straight, and you've got a really heavy braking zone, probably the trickiest along with turn 1 on the circuit. Very easy to lock the rear tyres here. So again, as I said at the start, you're struggling with rear locking, move the brake bias forward, and increase in the percentage. Obviously, the brake pressure will go more to the front tyres. So braking here just after the 150 board. So you just see on the right hand side here, the 150 board here. You're braking just before that. You don't want to be braking much later, as you will just lock up and miss your apex. Again, turning in, being off the corner. Can use a tiny bit more curb on that. However, there is a slight bump. I don't know if you can see, but there's a slight bump here which can unsettle the car. To be fair, that's probably the right amount of curb you want to be using. And then getting on the throttle. And that, I can tell you from experience, that's probably the furthest you can get onto the AstroTurf without getting off track. So don't go any further than the white line, and don't go any further than that over the AstroTurf, as, again, very strict. So we'll have a look into the corner. Braking nearly 100%, you'll see down here. And then trailing, you go to the 100% and you want to come right off it. Straight off it as quickly as you can, really. And then holding the pressure at about 70% and then just trailing off and getting into the corner. Slowing it down for the apex and back on the throttle. And again, you can see I'm using the throttle to rotate the rear of the car on the exit. Gives a bit of a wiggle, but it's a bit quicker. Obviously, be careful with that using it in race sessions, as you are going to wear your rear tyres out a bit more. But if you're looking for a bit more performance in qualifying, then there's absolutely no problem with using that. Just using the rear tyres and using the accelerator to rotate the car. Now coming into the bit more technical side of this circuit, so the slow speed section into sector 3. Very easy to lock your rear tyres again, and you'll notice I'm getting over to the left here. A lot of track to use, and I actually missed the apex slightly here. You can use this yellow sausage just to rotate the car. You don't want to be out here at all because you're just going to scrub off lap time. And because the mechanical grip of this car isn't great, it's best to just shorten this route to the next corner as much as you can, and you'll see what I mean in a second. So braking into this corner here, just be really patient on the throttle. You see I'm not running out wide, I'm aiming for this curb here. So you notice straight across, get across this curb as much as you can, clipping that curb on the left, and then you just want to be very patient. This is one of the trickiest corners again. The braking, very easy. As you're braking in a straight line here, you see the car is pointed towards the barriers. So it's very easy when you're braking and turning to lock that front left and also the rear tyres as well. So don't brake more than 40-50% into the corner as you're going to lock up and carry that speed and just go straight on. So be very careful with your braking here. You see, again, I'm running it quite wide into the middle of the circuit, just waiting to get the car in so I can square off the corner and get the exit speed that you need. You can also use a lot of this curb here. There's a slight bump on the apex again, but I think the amount I've done there is pretty much how much you want to be using. And you can see it helps rotate the car as well. And then you're getting back on that throttle as early as you can. This next, it's a triple right-hander really that's all merged into one corner. Very tricky to get right, especially on cold tyres, as you have to be incredibly patient. The car will just want to understeer off the track, and you've got to be really patient. Use the brake just to get the nose down and into the apex. And you'll see what I mean in a second. Now in like an open wheeler, for example, like an F1 car, you'd be running this out as far to the left as possible, and this will be completely flat. You'd be opening up the corners as much as you can to carry the speed. In the Porsche car, it's obviously a very different car. A lot of weight, not much aero to use. You see, I've got the brake on already. I'm taking the shortest route I can just to minimise the sort of distance you need to cover. And you want to hug the inside really as much as you can, just to shorten the route. So you see into this first apex here, a little bit of dab of brake, 10-15%, just to get into this curb here. And then what you'll see as you come out of this curb, you see I've got a lot of lock on here as well. You've just been really patient and you're aiming for this curb here just to shorten the route to the next corner. And you'll see what I mean in a second. So I'm flat there, and I've got a little lift just to keep the car as far to the right as I can. And this is really where you want to be full throttle again. You want to be aiming for here just to carry the speed out of the corner. I'll just show you that once more from outside the car. So you see just a lift, slight bit of brake to get into that apex there. Lift again, another slight lift, still just feathering the throttle, just feeling what the car's doing. If the rear end's coming out, you're sliding wide, then obviously just come off the throttle slightly and the car will glide back in to the apex. And then we're back on full throttle, out to the middle of the track, and then you're going to want to get it back over to the right-hand side for the penultimate corner. Just be careful again using too much astro or the curb on the way in, as you will get an off track. This one was also quite a tricky corner, just as it's slightly awkward, the angle of the corner and the camber on the apex. You can aim for this yellow sausage again. You won't get an off track for that, so that's fine to use. I actually did run a bit wide on this lap, which meant that I couldn't get on the throttle as early as I wanted. And again, really careful on the exit here, as you will get an off track very easily. So I'll play that once for you again. Into the apex, just feathering the throttle, make sure you don't go any wider than that white line. That's just about the limit. And then you notice I'm keeping it onto this AstroTurf curb, onto the entry to the final corner. Braking onto the curb and the AstroTurf, there's no problem at all. There's no lack of grip out there. It's actually quite grippy, so no problem in using that at all. And on your qualifying laps, what you can do is get it, as you've got a very short run to the line afterwards, you can really send it into this apex and just carry all the speed in you can and then deal with it on the exit, as you've got quite a short run to the line. There's a lot of curb to use as well. And a few times in practice, you can get right on this yellow curb as well. As for a race lap, you probably just want to make sure you get a good exit, as you'll have to deal with that the whole straight for the rest of the lap. And then back on the throttle, using a bit of the curb on the exit. And that will be a lap of Kota. So I'll just show you that once more time with what I'm doing with my braking. Braking just in line with this orange barrier here. Just start braking and then get the car turned in to the apex nicely, probably about 70% or so, I'd say, into the final corner. Trail brake into the apex, back on the throttle, and that is a lap of Kota. Thank you guys for watching another week of Porsche Cup at the Circuit of the Americas. I hope that was useful for you guys, and there were some useful tips and tricks in there that you've picked up that you can use for the week ahead. Obviously, if you've got any more further queries or anything, then obviously use Coach Dave Academy's Discord. Also go to coachdaveacademy.com for all the latest guides and data packs. I'll be Matt Emery with Coach Dave Academy for week 5, and I will see you guys next week. Take care.